Greetings, fellow souls. In this video we're going to be having a look at the Quickshot J-link. I like to think of this as somewhat undocumented. I mean, it's not completely undocumented, but you don't exactly see anyone raving about it like the Voodoo 3D effects video cards or anything like that. So I decided to explain what this is, what it can be used for, and how I might consider it to be an essential piece of hardware for the DOS gamer who prefers to play around with vintage hardware rather than emulation. So first things first, we can see it's a peripheral. It plugs into the Sound Blaster's game port, and it presents us with a further 4 game ports, as well as a switch, which has 5 settings. On the underside we see that it's got suction cup feet, and we have a nameplate designating its model number. A Quickshot model number QS-5843 J-link, made in China, and it has the European certificate. There is also another version of the J-link which has auto fire. It has an auto fire switch, and it allows you to apply auto fire to any of the 4 gamepads that you might have connected. Now, firstly, it's not a multi-tap. I'm just going to say that this is not a 4-way adapter or 4-player adapter, simply because this doesn't allow you to have any more than 2 joy ports active at one time. It's no fault of its own, but that's just a limitation of the game port itself. If you're looking for a 4-player game adapter, then you'll probably want to have a look at the Gravis Grip, which was one of the few multiplayer multi-taps available for the PC, and it was only supported by a handful of games, mainly sports games such as the EA Sport games. NHL 96 supported the Gravis Grip for sure. But yeah, so what does this do if it's not a multi-tap? Well, if we have a look on the switch here, we have 1 plus 2, 1, 2, 3 and 4. The idea of this is, if you know anything about vintage computers in the mid-90s, you'll know that the joystick port would always be at the back of the computer. Front-mounted joystick ports on a PC were either uncommon or completely non-existent. I'd probably vouch for the latter. And we can have a look at this here. That's my custom-built DOS machine that I built about a decade ago now. Now, if you look here, there's no sockets at the front. Unlike slightly later systems, you'll see that we began to have things like front-mounted USB ports and front-mounted headphone and microphone sockets. Even if we have a look at this PC from 2002, we'll see that front-mounted USB ports made things quite a bit easier for the PC gamer. But going back to the pre-USB times, such as when we were using this for our joystick interface, they were never mounted at the front. Instead, you'd have to lean all the way at the back to see that joystick ports were always at the back, and they were always on the same slot as the sound card. So it would usually be near where you would connect your speakers. So of course that meant if you had a nice variety of different controllers or joysticks or steering wheels or paddles, such as this thing here, or even that wacky motion tilt controller, the Gamester Evolution, you'd realise that every time you wanted to change your controller, you'd have to lean to the back of your PC and probably hit yourself under the shelf or subject yourself to some other form of agony. That being said, the J-link saves you from that ordeal by having you plug this at the back of your PC, and this with its little suction cups could be mounted in front of your PC. You could mount it on top of your monitor, since back then we mostly used CRTs, so there would be like a lot of headspace for the feet to stick on, or right in front of your desk. So you now had front-mounted joystick ports. And that in itself was cool. But in addition to that, you could have multiple controllers plugged in at the same time. To make it even more convenient, you no longer even had to remove and reinsert your controller, but you could have up to 4 of them hooked up at the same time. We have a look at 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So, of course, you could have your power pad, you could have your 8-button pad, you could have your tilt controller, you could have your Sidewinder joystick, and you could have all these all hooked up at the same time. You could even have your flight yoke or steering wheel connected. But the 5th option, that allows you to add 1 plus 2, means that this can also be used as a Y-splitter. So while you can't simultaneously use 4 controllers, since you have to manually switch between them all using this switch, it is possible that ports 1 and 2 can be used simultaneously for the handful of 2-player DOS games that do support using a joystick for either player, such as mainly fighting games, I think. I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, had support for this. Primal Rage certainly had support for this. I think maybe some of the ports of Street Fighter 2 had support for this. Mortal Kombat most likely used it. I think it was mainly fighting games that would support this, but there's probably a handful of others as well. However, it's not just 2-player games that would make use of 2 joysticks. For there are a handful of games, such as Duke Nukem 3D and various flight simulators, would allow you to hook up 2 joysticks simultaneously. So one could be used as a throttle and a rudder, and the other could be used for general movement. In Duke Nukem 3D, you could set up one joystick for moving and turning, and the other for strafing and looking up and down. And in this case, you could hook up something like 2 Quickshot 201s, and you can hook these up together and use the 1 plus 2 mode of the J-link to use these simultaneously. So here we are with our spaghetti tangle of a junction, nasty spaghetti, involving our J-link, and we have these 2 Quickshot 201 joysticks hooked up, and we're getting ready to play a little bit of Duke Nukem 3D, which is a nice example of what you can do with a twin joystick setup. see I'm not very good with this setup, but it does leave a bit to the imagination of what you can do with a white splitter and Unity 3D. Further concluding to that, we can see that we now also have a Pro Pad, and this controller has now been hooked up to our J-link. Now, in order to use these, you can see that I've connected them to ports 3 and 4, but bear in mind that ports 3 and 4 cannot be used simultaneously, either with each other or simultaneously with ports 1 and 2. Hence why we have a dual mode for 1 and 2, but we also have singular modes for 1 and 2. 3 and 4 are singular, so it's not like you could use these two controllers for a 2-player game. You'd actually have to remove these joysticks and relocate these gamepads to ports 1 and 2. However, we can just simply use them as they are for a single-player game without having to unplug and replug, which is nice in itself.
EA Sports presents NHL Hockey 96.
Right, we're going to switch to joystick pull 3 to use this gamepad. I have to use the mouse for these menus, the mouse and the keyboard. I'm not entirely sure, but I think we will probably just have to set it as joystick 1. Joystick 2, keyboard, mouse. I think it's joystick 1. If we want to use the Pro Pad, we'll still leave it as joystick 1, but we will then switch it to 4. So, that's that. And I don't think what is it? No, this is not working. Or is it? I think it is working. No, the axis is all muddled up. Sorry about this. I'm having technical issues here. It's probably calling for a recalibration of things due to the sudden change of setup. Calibrate joystick 1. Yeah, here we go. It's permanently set like that. If I press anything, it doesn't quite work, so press reset. Okay. Okay, it's not quite working. I'm gonna have to reset the game, I think. That literally calls to go back to the DOS prompt. I think this is something just specific to the game itself rather than the J-link. Yes, going back to the DOS prompt and retyping the game command will fix this problem, which leads me to think it is something specific. Now you see that we are on the calibration screen for the joypads, and if we select option 4, you can see that the Pro Pad has been activated. If you just want to reset it, you just press reset and that recenters it. There we go. So by toggling between 3 and 4, we have the option of using the power pads, or this little generic directional controller that I picked up for cheap. And of course, if we just want to play a 2-player game of NHL with these 2 joysticks, we just put it back onto 1+2. And we should just, there we go, have 1. That's calibration of joystick 1. And here's the calibration of joystick 2. Of course, we need to reset this. No, this is not working. Absolutely not working. One's working, but I can't seem to get the 2 working. No, not even as a single player. Not quite sure if I don't know if anything else has to be loaded to use a Y-link. This is a new game that I've recently got as a Christmas gift, so I don't really know. I'm not ultra familiar with like what this game can and can't use. But yeah, we're gonna go and try the power pad of this game, which NHL generally just uses a 2-button joystick. It's just A, B in the joystick, or we can just switch to the D-pad, which is part of the reason why the power pad is so great. So that should be the case, although that doesn't seem to be working all that well. Funny that. I'm just going to make the joystick crash. Oh, I'm just going to crush the joy port, which look at that. Right, overcoming that technical disaster. We can center the D-pad like that, but never, with the power pad, you should never switch on the fly between analog and digital during an actual calibration screen. That's just a big no-no, as I've just found out. Again, I think that's something either specific to the controller, or perhaps even the game itself. We switch to analog mode. So yeah, that's great. Yep, joystick port 1 for this. Whether you're using ports 3 or 4 on the J-link, it's still going to be player 1, as those ports are only for single player games only. playing the team with the black and white uniform. And last but not least, to close up this video, we can see that it's a 2-player adapter. So you can calibrate joystick 1. And we can calibrate joystick 2. Fancy playing a 2-player game by yourself? Player 2 is also going to play as Dallas All-Stars. Joystick 2. I think having 2 players after the attack at the same time can be beneficial. Yes, I'm controlling the Dallas players that have both the red and the blue stars beneath them. That was close. So fast, sunshine.
One minute left in the first period.
I feel like painting the buttons on one of these joysticks blue. And there you have it, the Quickshot J-link. The essential gaming peripheral for all you DOS gamers.
After the first period, the score is Dallas 0, New Jersey 0.
Alright, rock on, over and out.